I guess not a reluctant car collector, but an accidental car collector, because that will come and sit. And I did a feature film, my first 12 years ago, where
Take Me Home.
Yeah. The character gets into a cab and talks the cabbie into driving her across the United States. And I was like, well, I'm just going to buy a cab. So we bought a cab, the crew and I, like the week before we started shooting. Actually, we started shooting. We didn't even have the cabs. And then we finally got it. And we drove it all the way across the country. It had 325,000 miles on it.
For the film, you actually drove this cab. The crew went across the country with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Six crew members and my wife and I. And so after that experience, I just drove the taxi cab around for a couple of years, and
you kept the taxi.
Yeah, it was my main transport, around town,
and it had the writing on it and all that stuff.
Yeah, in fact, one time I went to a meeting at Sony, and I was driving around the parking lot. I was late for this thing, and I'm driving around. This woman stops the car. This is in this Sony, 4-story parking lot. And she goes, I roll down the window. She goes, can you take me to my car? And I go,
of course.
Well, I'm not a real cab driver. I'm just going to she goes, oh, you're an actor in a taxi cab. Okay. Well, can you take me to my car anyway? And I said, yeah, sure, hop in.
You did.
So I drove this woman around like 6 floors. She couldn't figure out where her car was, and I dropped her off, and then was even later to the meeting. But
that's hilarious.
It's worth it.
I mean, just to keep your taxi and driving a taxi all around town.
Yeah.
And how old were you? This was 12 years ago.
Yeah, it was
11 years.
I think I was. Did I have? Yeah, I was 30 something, early 30s.
I'll tell you, it is. I actually directed a little independent raunchy comedy that didn't cost a ton of money to make, and I wrote it, directed, starred in it, just like you.
Yeah.
And when I read that you did this and Take Me Home, and your wife is in it, Amber.
Yeah.
I thought, I got to ask him how. I mean, because it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I don't know how I survived. Everybody was trying to talk me out of it. They're like, you won't have enough energy to move.
No.
You'll be so exhausted. You won't. And there were a couple of days where I thought, I'm saying this, it sounds like I'm kidding. I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to just collapse and they're going to bring me to the hospital.
Yeah, there's an enormous sense of panic. It's one thing. It's funny because a couple of years later, I directed an episode of Parenthood.
Yeah.
And in this one day where we had a process trailer, we were shooting the, interiors of a car with this giant, the car's on a giant truck bed. And, at one point we turn around and the energy of the car collapses, the truck, the electricity just goes out. The car shuts down. We're mid U-turn. And everybody in the crew is flipping out. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. We got to move this stuff around, and everybody's in a panic. And I thought, well, this is new for me because the cops are actually helping us. They're stopping traffic, and instead of us having to run from the cops, which is usually the scenario when you're in an indie film, you're like, all right, we're going to steal this scenario. We're going to steal this shot. It's 11 o'clock at night. You guys look that way. Make sure there's no cop cars. You guys look that way. Make sure there's no cop cars.
Yes.
So to be in this set where I'm like, oh no, we're legal here. And we have patrol officers protecting us from this is
fine.
This is cake.
That's funny you say that because I remember I directed an episode of Smallville. And it was before I directed a movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is great. This is easy. But little did I know it's easier because every department is working with, they know what to do. They know where to be. They know what to do. And it makes your life tremendously easier.
Just the fact that there is a department.
Exactly.
And you're not like, wait, who do we have food for these people?
Oh man.
Yeah.
It was, I remember like day one filming our movie called Back in the Day, and we're the first AD comes up to me and I go, what's the problem? They go, the crew and everybody has been standing in line waiting for lunch to be ready for like 15 minutes and it's not ready.
Oh, that hurts.
And I was like, it's an independent movie and I'm in Indiana. And so we had to talk to them and say, hey, food has to be ready at exactly this time. There's no other. And we just were behind. And it's just like, but when you're doing TV, the Parenthood, you probably were like, no, this is a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Night and day.
Was it really difficult? Was it the hardest thing you've ever done, directing an independent and being the star in it and all that?
Yeah. Work wise, other than raising children, that's far and away the hardest.
Well, what about working with your wife too? Did that put a kind of a?
Well, she was a great sport. Like, I mean, I was, we were always, every day was like a new thing. And I was, no actor should have put up with what I put her through. I mean, it would be like, hey guys, we were shooting this scene in the forest because we had to shift over because it was raining somewhere else. And so I was like, hey, we got this scene where you're digging through the mud trying to get your purse that you chucked into the woods. So I'm guessing there's poison ivy here. Everybody get socks on, and honey, you're just going to have to just do it. We'll try and clear it out.
Don't worry about the lime.
And she got poison ivy so bad that by the time we had driven out to Utah, we couldn't shoot half of her face.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because the poison ivy had reached her face. And so we were like, all right, can't shoot Amber's left side. So, and the whole time she was just trying to navigate as best.
And she was fine? You guys didn't fight? You didn't bicker?
No. I mean, she at one point she was just like, hey, I just need a little space here just because I'm doing the best I can, but I'm itching and we need to go to urgent care to get shots for my,
Good Lord.
Yeah.